Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Playmakers Bar Podcast, the NFL edition. And today we're going to finish our division talks with the North. So we're going up north, the AFC North and the NFC North. But before we get started, you already know me down there, the Playmakers Son, and you know who's always with me. Dallas Glenn, how you doing?
Doing good, fellas.
And coming back for another week to talk with the Playmakers is Jason. What's going on?
All right, man. How you doing? Just kind of kicking it. Glad it's a good old Wednesday. So let's get through this.
Hump day.
All right. So today we're talking in the AFC North. Let's talk about the AFC North. Excuse me. AFC North. Cleveland won the offseason. Pittsburgh has no more distractions, and there's no more Flacco behind Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And then there's Cincinnati. With that being said, Jason, break down the AFC North.
All right, man. I mean, well, it's tough. You know, the Browns are definitely going to be monsters with all the new additions. I mean, Hunt's still sitting back there, but that's behind Chubb. I mean, they have OBJ now, and just gives another weapon for Baker to toss the ball around to. From there, I mean, Miller is on a suspension. Go figure. He has a talent, but not really what you'll need with OBJ. I think he's going to kind of slowly go away just because OBJ is going to stretch that field like crazy. You have Landry for the short passes, and I just think Njoku's there to also kind of get in the slot and bother people and just help with blocking. And then, I mean, Chubb, I feel like he's just going to keep that job at least until he has some help or they start to relieve him a little bit with Hunt in the back part of the year.
Okay. That's what you got for the AFC North.
It's interesting because this isn't as quarterback driven as a division as the NFC South is, but I feel like Baker Mayfield and Ben Roethlisberger, we can tell that those two can sling it. Baker Mayfield revitalized the entire franchise by literally his playmaking ability and his ability to just throw it up. He's not Brett Favre in and out there. He's not turning it over like it's crazy. But he didn't play in the first 5 games, and he broke the rookie passing touchdown record after a head coaching change and everything. So, I mean, I feel like the lauding and praising that Baker Mayfield is getting, I feel like it's warranted. I don't think it's going to go through much of a slump because I think Freddie Kitchens is building an offense that is tailor-made for him. Likewise, the Steelers now are completely different than the Steelers in the last decade. When you look at the Patriots and the Chiefs, they rely on their quarterbacks. Whether you want to call it dinking or dunking or bazooking the ball down the field with Patrick Mahomes, those two teams rely on their quarterbacks, and their quarterbacks are going to throw it at least 35 times. I feel like when it comes to the out-of-division games, and with a division like the North, that's what it's going to come down to, the out-of-division games, I trust Ben Roethlisberger and Baker Mayfield more as passers than Lamar Jackson. Even though Lamar Jackson's body is still young, you have to wonder, after seeing Andrew Luck's thing, Cam Newton right now, and Michael Vick's career, you have to wonder how many 16-game seasons is Lamar Jackson going to have if he doesn't follow Aaron Rodgers' advice to slide more. So right now, I think I would actually go with tenure. Right now, I think the safe pick would be the Steelers, simply because James Conner, before the ankle injury, was a decent replacement. He had really, really good numbers, but we're comparing him to Le'Veon Bell. And I think that with Juju and Conner, I think you're going to see what's kind of in New Orleans and Green Bay. New Orleans and Green Bay have pretty much shown the template of what the Steelers might look like. Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas have an absurd amount of targets in comparison to their teammates. Likewise, Kamara and Aaron Rodgers doesn't even have a running game, so that's even more absurd that he only targets one receiver most of the time. But Kamara is pretty much going to show you what Conner is going to be. Conner's going to have to do a lot more work out the backfield, but I think that Roethlisberger knows how to win, and Tomlin knows how not to lose. Tomlin doesn't have many losing seasons as the Steelers coach. I think last year might have been the second one out of almost 15 years. So I think the Steelers are the safe pick, but I mean, if you want to go for it, probably the Ravens. I think the Bengals don't have a shot though.
Still no love for the Browns, man? That's kind of a tough decision right there. I mean, that's so much talent. It's hard not to pick them. I mean,
It's
I
Cleveland. The
know,
last
but
time there was a really talented team like that was Philadelphia. Like, we've literally seen over the course of time a lot of talented teams that get together. Now, granted, they didn't buy this team. This team was kind of sort of like dirt cheap or Dollar Tree. It was budget. You got one in a trade because the other team was tired of them. You got one because of suspensions and stuff. But for the most part, this is a built offense with two major additions. So, I mean, that's not to say they won't make the playoffs. If you're picking the Steelers to win the division, it could be like the AFC West last year. The Chargers made the playoffs with like an 11-win record. That's not to say that Cleveland's not going to win games. It's just if you want me to pick the division.
So who do you have behind them? Do you have it as the Browns behind the Steelers, or do you have the Ravens behind the Steelers? Because those are two very different teams. I mean, one is definitely that ground and pound kind of a play, while the other is going to be your high-flying offense. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Browns have a tough D, but it's still more offense-driven for sure for how they're going to score and how they're going to move the ball.
Right now, I would probably have the Ravens behind the Steelers, but I think the AFC North is a division that might have three teams make the playoffs. It's happened before. It's actually not as rare as some people might think. If there's one division in football that could have three teams, it could be the AFC North. Because when you're talking about who number two is, the Ravens defense didn't lose many people. They lost people like Terrell Suggs. I mean, from business and football, a lot of people would agree, like, that's kind of sort of an age out. He's still very, very good. He'll probably have a very relevant season with Arizona, but, I mean, he's older. That's not a huge loss. That's a locker room loss, but the way that the Ravens franchise has always been won, you don't have to worry about locker room stuff. What you really have to worry about is Lamar Jackson's development as a passer, and can you trust Lamar Jackson, young in his career, to stick around all 16 games? I know Baker will be around all 16 games. They have a former first-round pick at left tackle that got trial by fire. This isn't the guy that they signed trying to kick the tires. Greg Robinson played a lot last year. And that's not to say that Orlando Brown and Marshall Yanda are any scrubs either for Baltimore. But when you have an offense that's going to involve a lot of your quarterback getting carries, I'm not saying that the Chargers game from last year is going to happen, but I am saying that we have seen this song and dance before. And I know Baker Mayfield is going to be around all 16 games.
Yeah, with that in mind, I mean, still, you're looking at the Ravens. I don't know who Lamar's really going to pass to. I mean, they have Andrews there, and I think he's going to probably get some of the targets, but even then, he's, maybe getting, let's say, 8 targets a game. That's kind of a step up from last year. I mean, but then you have Mark Ingram. He's kind of sketching back, but it's just not somebody that you're going to really rely on to do that. I mean, and then, of course, you have him carrying it, but, who is he really going to pass to? That's the big issue I see in Baltimore. I mean, their defense, yeah, like you said, they didn't really lose anybody, so they're still going to be in games. I mean, but again, bringing up last year, you saw the Chargers take the ball away from him, and what did he have to do? I mean, the score doesn't really reflect it because they kept him down for 3 out of the 4 quarters, and then they knew that they had it clinched pretty much, so they let up. But that's one of those things that you can't just rely on your quarterback. And I know he says that they're going to change the offense around to be something that you've never seen before, but again, what are you really looking for in that team to have them as a number 2? I mean, I could see the Browns and Steelers, but nobody's even talking about the Bengals, and that's probably fair. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year. I mean, I like Joe Mixon. He has a lot of talent. I mean, AJ Green's hurt, so you say he comes back week 4, 5, or 6, really depending on how he recovers. And then you have Boyd there, but man, I see them moving on from Andy Dalton as quarterback, and it's just a whole nother mess. So the Bengals, you can really count out. I'll be surprised if they make it to 500 this year.
Yeah, I mean, fourth place team at 500, and they will be the fourth place team no matter what happens. That's a testament to the division, because there's probably going to be some team this year that gets awfully close to the wild card with a 500 record. So I mean, but to your point, I mean, it's weird because the Ravens are kind of like that anomaly. The 2000 Ravens, they're notorious for not scoring a touchdown in 5 consecutive games. Then the 2013 Ravens, I know they had Torrey Smith, and after that, you're starting to wonder. I think they had.
Was that Mike Wallace's year?
Hmm?
Was that Mike Wallace's year, or is he later than that?
Dude, I forgot Mike Wallace was a Raven. That might have been. But no, yeah. like seriously, like that Super Bowl was basically touted as like an old school Super Bowl. Like everybody knew what was going to happen. So when you look at the Ravens' 2 Super Bowl wins, the defenses definitely get the credit. I can understand your point about who are they throwing to, but it's like there's literally one franchise over the course of NFL history where you look at and it's like, yeah, they have a thick power running back. They have a walking Hall of Famer at guard. They have a great young right tackle. And they have a quarterback that's not going to lose them games. He's probably going to win them some. Like, the Ravens formula, for whatever reason, works for them. The Jags have tried it. The 49ers tried it. Tennessee's trying it right now. Nobody else gets that formula right in the modern era but Baltimore. So it's not so much that, on paper, I don't see what everybody's talking about with Cleveland, but at the same time, it's like, dude, like, this isn't LeBron James when he was with the Cavaliers. When LeBron James went back to the Cavaliers, you would have been stupid to not think that the Cavaliers were a contender. Dude, no, this is like the Browns. And this isn't even like, the old Browns. This is the 1999 to present Browns. They have talent, cool, but I mean, what have they shown you in the past to make you think that they're going to cash in on a young head coach who knows how to use his quarterback, a quarterback who knows how to throw it up, and 2 number 1s at wide receiver? What's Cleveland giving you in the past?
Well, I mean, now that I think about it, that 2015 year, it was actually Steve Smith Sr. I mean, he was the leader there who really, I mean, that's a solid wide receiver. I mean, granted, he was older, but he had a lot of talent, and he's one of those people that really just, I think, helped carry that team to that Super Bowl.
Steve Smith won a ring with him? Huh. I don't know why I thought it was the 2013 year. But I mean, yeah, so, but nope. Even still.
He did not win a ring.
Okay, so he didn't win a ring with Baltimore.
Nope.
Okay. So yeah, but even still, if you want to go to when Steve Smith was with Baltimore, Steve Smith was so good when he was in Baltimore because the kind of person that Steve Smith has established himself to be, he was pissed that people wrote him off because of his age. He was literally on a revenge tour because people wrote him off because he was older. So even then, Steve Smith played so well because he knew that he was an old man in the NFL. That was the whole precipice of him being the way that he was in Baltimore. That's still not getting a prime wide receiver. Even Michael Crabtree last year, it's like, dang, Michael Crabtree left and didn't want to re-sign with the team, but like, who's Michael Crabtree with now? So, I mean, like, dude, like, I'm telling you, I know how it seems on paper. I know how it seems in the preseason, but man, it's not like LeBron James is playing tight end and wearing number 81. Like, it's the Cleveland Browns. The fact that they have this much optimism going into the season is cool, but they literally had a season where they won 10 games. With Eric Mangini, they won 10 games and missed the playoffs. That's just the kind of luck you have when it comes to Cleveland.
Wow. 14 minutes in, I barely said anything.
My bad. But at the same point, I mean, I was thinking about their wide receivers for Baltimore. So you have Boykin that I know is going to probably be your one maybe. And I guess if you're saying that Steve Smith was such a great quarterback and people wrote him off at his age, are you looking at Michael Floyd in that same kind of light? I mean, No.
Floyd is nowhere in the same vicinity, not in the same city as Steve Smith.
So you're hoping that all these rookies come through and really just take it to him. I mean, if you're looking at that, that's
You're
a lot of growth
right.
for.
Willie Snead, the former Saint.
Snead is a good. Hey, he's a dark horse. He's gonna get a lot of targets.
He's that short pass guy. I mean, Boykin's your long bomb guy, and I mean, Andrews is going to be covering down low.
That'll be Marquise Brown too, because Marquise Brown can fly.
That's true. You gotta think there's gonna be a lot of play action too.
They got Hollywood Brown from Oklahoma. That boy can fly.
Yeah, this isn't traditional lineup and shotgun beat your man with route running. This is play action. There's gonna be a lot of safeties creeping down and a lot of linebackers misreading the play.
What about
they got speedsters. It's the better of the hands because they're gonna be catching some balls in traffic off those play action plays.
And trust me, we watched. Me and Dallas talked about Oklahoma a lot, and Hollywood Brown was one of them dudes.
Oh yeah, bro. He's an Oklahoma wide receiver. You gotta automatically give him a chance. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and so let's look at the Steelers real quick. Moving on from the Ravens.
They have no more distractions. It's James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster, and we really don't look in the preseason like that. But I must say, James Washington has been very impressive in preseason. I wonder if he can carry it over to the regular season. Because Oklahoma State, him and Mason Rudolph, that was the connection. Can he do that with Ben now? Because Mason Rudolph's the backup, so.
I don't know, man. My thing is, I'm kind of curious if they don't run out 2 tight end sets with Vance McDonald and Jalen Samuels. I mean, that could be a dangerous combination, and I mean, you can even have Connor in the backfield and have both those good catching backs that can just tear up off our defenses. It's hard to say.
I mean, if you were to work it like that, then Juju's definitely going to eat, because if you have a game plan where you're throwing it to the backs and tight ends, doing it kind of West Coast style, I mean, you can double Juju if you want, just because it's like, he's going to go into that Antonio Brown role. But if you truly double Juju and give them the underneath with 2 special receiving backs and 2 solid receiving tight ends, that's giving a lot of credit to Juju. He deserves the credit, but that's a lot of game planning credit, dedicating your free safety and a corner to Juju at all times.
And I'm putting it like this. If they do that, James Washington is going to be eat.
Well, no, James Conner is about to have a very, very good rushing season. He might finish top 6 or 7 in the league, because you're basically washing out a whole side of the defense as Juju just fakes the deep route.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a James somewhere for Pittsburgh showing out.
Yeah, somebody named James. Somebody's son named James is going to have a good season.
Hey, don't leave out Juju. You know that guy is a USC grad and is so talented. I mean, he's just going to be lighting the world on fire this year. I would not be surprised. I mean, I have him as my wide receiver 3 this year, and he's just a beast. And I think even then, I mean, he's going to have all those targets and not having to worry about who's getting those touchdowns. He's going to set some people on fire for sure and just burn them.
Oh, yeah, a big chunk of Ben's yards are going to come from Juju.
We're going to see what Pittsburgh look like without Antonio Brown.
Yeah, and they play the Patriots the first week, if I'm correct, right? And that's just going to be a good testament to see who goes from there, right?
Night football, Foxborough. The ceremony will be held. The Patriots going to get their 6 banner and whatnot and all this other stuff. And here comes Big Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That is so crazy. Like, they're doing Steelers-Patriots the first week, and it's a ceremony. Another ceremony. And, like, not to get far ahead, I mean, bro, like, for whatever reason, the Steelers, they continue to run zone against Tom Brady. I don't know why with the quarterback that's famous for dinking and dunking, quote-unquote, you would keep running zone, but we're going to see, because Stephon Gilmore's a bad, bad man. And he don't need no help. So that leaves Jason McCoy to have a nice day.
With yeah, about that.
And they have, God, what is his name in freaking New England that will end up covering for on Juju?
It'll be Stephon Gilmore.
Oh no, yeah. Stephon's gonna get you. Bill Belichick ain't gonna. He usually like does the chess matches and stuff. I don't think he's gonna do that. It's week 1. it's week 1, and even if Juju were not to be on Stefan's level, which I definitely think that, that's a very good matchup. I think Bill Belichick knows week 1 anything can happen. You definitely want to play that safe and put your best on their best. But, if you're talking about that one guy that covered Tyreek Hill in the AFC Championship game, that's going to be interesting because I don't know who's Pittsburgh's number 2 right now. But all I know is that they had some special teamer cover Tyreek Hill last year in the AFC Championship game. So I'm wondering where he's going to be, whether nickel or the number 2 corner.
So they're going to go from New Foxborough to take on New England to go home and open their home season against Seattle.
That's going to be a good test, too, because, one of the best middle linebackers in the league who can cover and patrol and can, set up that run D, always going to have a good defensive line.
So do you think there's going to be a road Ben this year, or do you think it's just going to be Ben being himself like he was last year? I mean, there wasn't really any home road splits last year for Big Ben, and I'm just curious to get your guys' take on that. If he's just going to be pretty steady, or if he's going to be hit or miss every week.
Don't know.
That's a good question because, it can go either way because they play the entire NFC West, which is my division. So Big Ben going to be seeing, as that was mentioned, he got to deal with Bobby Wagner patrolling the middle of the field as the middle linebacker. You already know. They got 2 matches with Baltimore, so there's going to be some hard hitting going on. You don't know how. You know what's going to happen. We're going to see about the Chargers because they lost Derwin James, so that might hurt.
I think another reason why the Steelers are a safe pick is because, when you look at offensive lines in the league, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a phenomenal pass blocking offensive line. They have done a great job at figuring out, just like Dallas has built a run blocking offensive line, the Steelers have built a pass blocking offensive line that fits with their new philosophy. You got David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, Ali Villanueva. Those are Pro Bowlers in their own right. Reuben Foster, that's a respected name. And then, whoever's at their right tackle, he's up to snuff. The Steelers are pretty much doing the same thing they've always done, just in a different way. They're very pass-focused, and they built the line for it. I think the difference and why Big Ben has been so successful and got a 2-year extension instead of a 1-year prove it is he's experienced. He has the games. He has the snaps. He was the one that did that hilarious falling bus dive to beat us last year. He can still win games. He can still do the game-winning drives. And the fact that they invested in the line, the fact that they got rid of a distraction because they knew they had the successor in place, the fact that, they ran James Conner because they knew without Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown acting up, it pretty much was a lost year. So you have to test out whoever's there and see how they respond. And James Conner responded very well. They might have drafted another weapon. So, I think the way that the team is just built, I think it's built for Ben. It's built to give Ben time on the sideline. It's built to give Ben the ball back. And it's built to protect Ben so that he can keep having those 40 passes a game, pass attempts a game games. So I don't think that Ben Roethlisberger is really going to take a dip. I think that Pittsburgh did the same thing New England did. They built the line.
I'm circling week 10.
Why?
Because that's when we go to Pittsburgh.
Who's we?
The LA Rams.
Is that really going to be a game that you want to watch? I think that's just going to be so brutal. I mean, if all the players for the Rams stay healthy, it's just going to beat up on the Steelers. I mean, their defense is another one that's pretty solid. They're one of those teams that has all the pieces that you can't really just cover one guy. I mean, it's going to be a tough one. That's probably going to be one of their tougher matches all year.
Well, let me put it to you like this. The people that I'm close with, the people that I know, their teams are on my schedule. It's a family warfare this season because just about everybody playing everybody. So I stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, I am circling that game. Now, interesting enough, to get back on track, Cleveland Browns won the offseason. They have 2 former LSU Tiger wide receivers, best friends at that, in Jarvis Landry and OBJ. David Njoku is a good tight end, up and coming tight end. You have Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt will be back after 8 games, so he'll be back in week 9. So, and you got Baker Mayfield at your quarterback, so you still got the same defense.
Yeah, the defense not something to sleep on. I mean, they were pretty solid last year. You really saw it or not, they did an awesome job keeping the Browns in games for that entire season. And
But I have to say this though, because Dallas, have we ever seen Cleveland in primetime action before?
Yeah. For whatever reason, yeah. Not this much though. Not this
No,
certain amount.
okay. Let me rephrase it. I don't mean Thursday night. I mean like actual like prime time game of the week type. Like everybody, hey, this is the game to watch.
Unfortunately, yes, but not this much. The OBJ effect that he was trying to explain when he had one of his many quotes about the Giants over this offseason is basically what Cleveland's getting. The New York Giants have been ass for the past couple of years, but they had one of the biggest stars in the NFL. Now Cleveland has one of the biggest stars in the NFL and a growing star. You're not going to miss out on those ratings. You're not going to show the Jets just because they're in New York.
The reason why I say that because the Rams coming to Cleveland Sunday Night Football week 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we talking legit. Y'all is on prime time. We gonna see what y'all really made of. And then you turn in they at San Fran on a Monday night. Pittsburgh, that's on a Thursday night. So you got Pittsburgh on a Thursday night. You got 3 primetime games. I should take that back, make it 4, because they did the Jets on Monday night the week before they played the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
At the Jets, home to LA, at San Fran, home to Pittsburgh is they primetime night games. What you gonna do, Cleveland?
I don't know. That's going to be a high-flying offense for both sides, man. That's just going to be something that and it's another one that's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be similar to the Kansas City Chiefs game versus the Rams last year that they both scored over 50, and whoever scores last wins.
So
yeah, it's definitely going to be a shootout because, and that's another reason why earlier I said my safe pick was Pittsburgh. Like, OBJ kept the Giants relevant. And OBJ had 1,000+ yard receiving season last year. But, how many games are you going to win because of him? He had all the chances in the world to show how many games you're going to win, how much you're going to be in contention because of him. And because that, some of those games are going to be straight shootouts. They're going to be high flying. They're going to be great for ratings, but bad for the fact of, damn, how is this going to work in the playoffs?
Then we go to Baltimore. They got Kansas City week 3. Seattle week 7. And matter of fact, Kansas City is a road game. So you got to go to Kansas City. Good luck on that.
Yeah, playing in Arrowhead's not the place you want to play, especially, as a younger quarterback. That's going to be a tough one for Jackson to try and figure out what's going on. They have to come in ready to not be able to hear anything and just work back from there because it's going to be tough. And all their different pieces is just.
You're going to see New England look like a Sunday night. Good luck on that one. New England, even though it's at home, it's Sunday night. They meet Lamar Jackson. You finna see Tom Brady on the other side.
On paper, Tom Brady wins that every time.
Yeah, and is Baltimore really... that's close enough to Boston that they can just kind of travel there. I'm not too worried about that being a home game still for the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like that's going to be another trouble Foxborough, pretty much. So.
And you got a Monday night game, and you come to LA to take on the Rams on Monday Night Football.
Jesus Christ! It's about the AFC North or your Rams.
They play the whole NFC West, so. I think it looked like they got Seattle on the road. Oh, Lord, they're going to Seattle.
That'll be more of a grinding game. I feel like that's just going to be Carroll trying to slow it down and really just contain Jackson. I mean, that's going to be something that he's good at, and they're just going to have the ball way too much. It's not going to go well for Baltimore there.
I'm gonna leave it right there. So Dallas says safe pick. You go Pittsburgh. If you want to go what you see on paper, that's all well and good. But Dallas says Pittsburgh, right?
Yep.
I'm saying Pittsburgh too. I'm gonna be like Stephen A. Smith. Show me something first. When the last time I seen y'all in the playoffs? When the last time I seen y'all win the division? When the last time I seen y'all contend for the division?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I've been saying it all offseason. I really like the Browns. I think it's going to be a big turnaround. I had them last year making a big jump. I feel like they did. Now they have an additional piece. They have all the right pieces to move forward. I see them probably getting a wild card, not so much and leading the division, but they're definitely getting a wild card in my opinion, and it's going to be a tough game for them. So it'll be one of the higher scoring offensive for sure.
That's what we got for the AFC North. With that being said, let's take a quick break and we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk the NFC North.
Ooh, yeah.
Another defensive side. Let's go.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? It's a long process. It's a hard, thought-out process. Yeah, I know. I was there. From March of this year, thinking about how I'm going to do this, doing all my research, trying to get everything right. What platforms can we use and how we going to record it and how we going to make it sound good and make it all this happen. And then I came upon Anchor. The Anchor app on my phone, the easiest choice I could ever make to do a podcast. It's free to use. You don't got to pay for nothing. You can record episodes whenever you're ready. You can edit it and then you can release them when you want to. And you don't have to worry about trying to figure out how you're going to distribute it on other platforms because Anchor has partnerships with Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Cast, whatever you name it. Because the Playmakers Bar podcast is the podcast that I use. We're on all them platforms. We're on 9 platforms just by using the Anchor app. So pretty much all the questions that you have questions about doing a podcast, go to the Anchor app or go to the Anchor website, anchor.fm.com, and just search through it, ask questions. Because I tell you, a free app that does all this, there's nothing more you can ask for. I even got friends, they doing their podcast on the Anchor app. Faith Talk, you might have heard of it because it's very good. And it's great that it's an app like this, it's a website like this that makes it easier for people to do podcasts and do what they love best, talking about the things that they love to talk about. So give Anchor a try, see how much you like it. We'll love to hear your podcast.
All right, so welcome back. Now, Dallas, I'm gonna give you the NFC North.
Oh, okay. You want me to start off? Okay, good.
I'm gonna let you start NFC North.
The NFC North is the case of, I think every team has the most important position settled. It's the fact of who are the game breakers that help those quarterbacks go. You got Devontae Adams. You got Khalil Mack. You have Stephon Diggs and Xavier Rhodes. And we're still trying to figure out who's going to be that guy for Detroit. Maybe it's going to be Trey Flowers. You know, they were hoping that Ziggy Ansah could have been the one. But right now you have a guy that used to play in the Patriots system that, you know, Patricia knows of. Patricia was over the system when Trey Flowers had a lot of his good years. The reason why Trey Flowers didn't have an absurd amount of numbers is because of the system that Bill Belichick asked his defensive ends to play. He asked him to set the edge, not actually rush the passer. That's why he didn't have a crazy amount of, numbers. But at the same time, his old coach knows exactly what he can do in a different system that asks him to attack. That being said, Detroit still doesn't have a game breaker. They saw Matt Stafford just throwing it up, hoping for the best, with a crappy offensive line, an inconsistent run game, and a defense that just makes you wonder why. So they're pretty much taking the Bengals spot that we did the last time. And you're basically going between Kirk Cousins, robbing them of $84 million, Aaron Rodgers having one guy to check it to and hoping that he has a defense to keep him in games, and Chicago, who seems to be the most completely built team. They have Allen Robinson. They have a receiver. Mitch Trubisky. They have a young quarterback that's going to keep growing. They have, Kyle Long, solid offensive lineman that anchors the line, that helps to have the decent running game. Was really solid last year, but the decent running game is going to help Mr. Trubisky on play action and make it not to where he's just standing in the back and just throwing it up, which he actually did pretty good with last year in the Philly game. So with Khalil Mack basically making that team a contender single-handedly, because a lot of people had Chicago as a 7-9, 6-10 team before Khalil Mack got there. I think that Khalil Mack is going to do what he's been doing. I think that is his name Kyle Fuller? I don't want to get the corner's name wrong.
Yep, you got it right.
Kyle Fuller, solid young corner. I feel like there's a lot of good corners, just like there's a lot of good wide receivers, and everybody can't make the top 5 and 10 list. But Kyle Fuller is a solid starter. Got a young linebacker who, was very proactive in his contract negotiations to not have a suspension, get his contracts unguaranteed. But, they have a very solid defense. They return a lot of people, just like Baltimore's returning a lot of people. But the difference is, they have somebody to throw to. They have Trey Burton coming back. Trey Burton was, actually the best blocking tight end and had a decent receiving season that you would look for from a blocking tight end. I think he had over 500 yards receiving, and I think maybe 6 touchdowns. Getting that from a blocking tight end who was the best blocking tight end in the league is super solid. So I think Chicago is more than the safe pick. I think that's who you should expect, because even though Matt LaFleur is going to give Aaron Rodgers a lot of flexibility, even though the Green Bay Packers are pretty much picking up where they've always left off and being quarterback first, everybody else second, I think that Chicago actually has the team. They have the makeup that makes them successful. They have a quarterback that's not going to F it up. They have somebody for the quarterback to throw to. They have extra help in the blocking game, and they have a generational pass rusher. I think they're set up to make a run. They should have made a run last year, but boing.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I think we're still seeing what we saw in the other division. It's just one of those things that you have that low tier sitting with the Lions. They have the talent there with Carry-On, and Stafford, I guess, was hurt all last year, allegedly, at least from, I think he said week 6 on, and I just don't know how much I buy into that. I'm hoping that's the case, because that would really help with their offense for sure, but I still only have them going, probably matching last year, doing 6-10 again. You have all solid defenses after that in Minnesota and Chicago. I do agree Chicago's probably your best defense for sure. They're going to slow it down. They're going to be what you see in probably, let's compare them to Baltimore or Pittsburgh. They're both kind of the slower. I'd probably go Vikings are more similar to the Steelers than Baltimore, but that's just one of those things that it's going to be a slow game. That's how they always play. It's a slower, low-scoring games. What was that? Chicago versus is that Minnesota last year that they only scored 10 points combined? That's just something silly. But again, Chicago brought in a young back. They got rid of Jordan Howard. He's over with the Eagles. Now you have David Montgomery coming in, who I'm assuming is probably going to take that role because they don't want to give Cohen any more touches from everything that I've read so far, and I just don't understand that at all. But he was super efficient with what he got last year, and I'm pretty sure Mike Davis is still hanging around. That just blows me away too, because he's that older back that I guess will be there if you don't think that Montgomery is able to handle it. Again, we have run into the issue of I don't know who's going to pass to. I guess they have Robinson. He's been hit or miss every year, and then maybe Trey Burton, but I don't know how much his injury is or how that's going to affect the game. Again, you have Aaron Rodgers is going to be running it like always, doing his thing. He has Jones. I think they're actually going to run it hopefully more than last year because they were at the bottom of the list, if I remember correctly, for rushing attempts last year. And then even then, I mean, they have probably one of the toughest run schedules to start, so that doesn't help them. And while you do, I mean, they do have Devontae Adams as like a solid choice for that first wide receiver. MVS showed some good spots. If they actually put him, I think he was outside, that he really succeeded. And I just feel like that will help a whole lot with helping move that offense. But again, it's a defensive side of the division. That's just another slow. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play smart. And then if it gets away from you, it's all downhill from there. I mean, an injury here or there for really any team will cause an issue. I like the talent of Mitch, and a lot of people don't realize that he ran a lot last year. I mean, he moves around in the pocket. He's able to get out and give time to all those players. That's why I think the tight ends were so successful last year. And then, I mean, I'm hoping that these running backs will help him not stay on his feet, at least try and stay on his feet for most of the year. And, man, I like Kenny Golladay, but I don't know how I feel about him being the number one wide receiver on the team. Like I said, I really hope Stafford's the one able to get to him, and it was just his back. But you're going to have to hope the seniority of Marvin Jones coming in and being that guy will really help that team. Because having him somewhat beaten up last year just really hurt the team, and getting rid of Tate was another issue. So,
I'm first let me apologize to those in the AFC North. I forgot to tell y'all about the poll, but the poll was between pretty much Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 42%, Cleveland 41%.
that was pretty close. I kind of figured that would be the top two at least because of all the talent that's on the Browns team.
So yeah, a lot of people on the Browns. But back to the NFC North. I did all my polls on Facebook for this one, Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the numbers right now. All the numbers for the three other teams is one better than one team by itself. Can you guess what the one team is?
Chicago?
Exactly, Chicago. Out of 67 votes from Facebook, Chicago got 33 of them.
What were the other numbers? I'm kind of curious to see how this breaks down on Facebook. For if they got 33%, what does the other teams sit at?
No, they ain't 33%. That's 33 of the 67 votes.
Wow, so they're at 50? That's crazy.
Minnesota came in second with 15. Green Bay had 14, and Detroit had 5.
Are people really sleeping that much on Minnesota? I mean, they have a lot of talented players there. I mean, with
It's
Cook.
not sleeping on Minnesota. It's knowing about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had multiple 4,000-yard seasons and nothing to show for him.
Never made the playoffs.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback if say you're a Jacksonville fan. Say you have Blake Bortles. Okay, say you're a Tennessee fan. Say you have Marcus Mariota. Say you're a Miami fan and you have Ryan Tannehill. We would love to have 4,000-yard, 20-plus touchdown quarterbacks that can have us in Week 16 trying to play, to get into the wild card round. The problem is we know that Kirk Cousins ain't going to win it. And we know that we're playing into the wild card round because he lost games he was supposed to win.
Yeah, but he was also dealing with a lot of issues. He was dealing with a lot of injuries for the Redskins for most of those years. I mean, that's one of the most injury-riddled teams that I've ever seen is the teams that he was on.
I mean,
and then last year he kept throwing to one person.
Yeah, I mean, injuries, hey, they happen. It's legit. It's a reason, not an excuse. But when you have quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Andrew Luck, and then you have, Russell Wilson when the team was supposed to be in a rebuilding year, and he, would have beat the Cowboys if he had a kicker. That's one of those things where it's like when you're going to make it $84 million fully guaranteed, you don't get to say injuries. When you earn that contract from playing for the team that had the injuries, and you have nothing to show for it, it makes you wonder, why did the front office give a guy the contract that they gave him if he can't carry a team that has injuries in a league where injuries are to be expected and prepared for, not a surprise?
I mean, Kirk Cousins doesn't win the big ones. He just doesn't. They showed the stat. It was something like 5-21 against teams out against playoff teams. Like,
yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers. I think they had an absurd stat. He's like 1 in a very high number whenever he's like behind in the fourth quarter or something like that. It's a ridiculous stat. But even then, like, okay, Aaron Rodgers has a terrible record when he's behind. The thing is, when Aaron Rodgers is on, he's rarely behind. So Kirk Cousins just doesn't have that kind of cachet. Kirk Cousins doesn't even have the Matt Stafford cachet where it's like, okay, we knew you had Calvin Johnson, but damn, who else did you have that when you threw 747 pass attempts? The fact that he threw 747 pass attempts, like, okay, our season's literally going to live and die with your right hand. But we trust you.
This year might be different because Dalvin Cook is back. Who knows for how long, though? Sorry to say it like that, but
yeah.
Who knows for how long? Jason, you brought up a person that I'm glad you brought up. Dallas. I don't know if you remember this guy, but you know when we started to talk about Iowa State because they was making some noise and they had this good running back, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's David Montgomery. He was drafted by the Chicago Bears.
Dang, so another running back to go with that running game to help Mitch on play action.
So I'm looking at David Montgomery to be one of the lead candidates for Offensive Rookie of the Year, along with Miles Sanders up in Philly. So, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, I ain't gonna count Allen Robinson, but one name y'all kept forgetting about, Tyler Gabriel is in Chicago from Atlanta.
How are you gonna count Tyler Gabriel but not Allen Robinson?
Before Calvin Ridley was in Atlanta, that was Tyler Gabriel.
And he lost his job to a rookie. Dude, Allen Robinson was a Pro Bowler. He was Jacksonville's clear number 1. We just couldn't pay him.
But he can't stay healthy. That's his problem.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why we didn't pay him. Fair.
You gotta stay healthy, man. You just got to. The best ability is availability. Come on, you gotta be healthy. You're not on the field. What you want me to say?
Oh, man.
He still had more touchdowns than Taylor Gabriel last year.
Yeah, because Mitchell Trubisky wasn't looking for Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah, he was looking for Anthony Miller.
Huh.
If he had that good defense, they would have been in trouble because he threw about 4 picks in one game. I forgot what game that was. Oh, never mind. Yeah, he threw 4 picks in one game, but if he didn't have that darn defense, they would have got their behinds and whooped.
Yeah, but they win with their defense. I mean, that's a huge part of it. They just slow the game down and then they run it, and then hopefully Mitch can find somebody to help move the ball a little bit, and then they just keep going and keep the game so slow. It's definitely not the most pleasurable game to watch.
It is. You like to see people get their ass kicked.
I will say this, though. They are praying up in Soldier Field and in Chicago that they have a kicker now.
I mean, dude, they had 5 kicks that hit the post. 5. Almost any kicker is better than what Cody Parkey was for them last year, which is even more bonkers because Cody Parkey was a Pro Bowler in the past. And the Pro Bowl kicker for the AFC last year, Jason Myers, literally tanked one of the Jaguar seasons all in his lonesome by himself. I saw it happen and we were amazed that it went down like it did. So literally almost any kicker in the league last year would have been better for Chicago than Cody Parkey. Kickers that were out here losing jobs and effing up tremendously, career like 80-something percentages on their field goal attempts, would have been better than Cody Parkey.
Yeah, which is why they're looking at Carly Lloyd, right? Isn't that who I saw kicking the field goal for them, 55 yards out?
I thought that was a Baltimore Raven jersey in the thumbnail, but I wouldn't be surprised if the team that actually was looking for her after hearing that she knocked down that field goal with Chicago. I mean, dude, think about it. Why haven't we seen more MLS players that, why haven't we seen more kickers from college? Like, why haven't we seen more of those? We always see track dudes. We always see, guys who barely played the rookie punt returner for Cleveland. We always see these nice feel-good stories of guys who didn't play in high school or guys who ran track and ran like a 4.2 or something. But it's like, Adam Vinatieri is probably going to be one of the very few special teamers in the Hall of Fame. I say one of the very few because Devin Hester should get in, which means that he's probably going to get in because Adam got in. And if those two get in, Steve Tasker should get in. So I say one of the few because it's a domino effect. But, I mean, Carly Lloyd, some people will laugh, but it's like, dude, the $4 or $5 mil a year that she would make on that 2-year contract, assuming that she did well her rookie year, would literally blow away whatever she would make in her domestic club league. Any club league, really.
Dallas, let me throw this at you. I'm gonna see how you feel about this. This division that we're talking about right here, the NFC North, will have to deal with the NFC East and the AFC West.
I mean, one team has a left tackle that doesn't want to play for the team and has shown that he probably ain't going to play for the team. And one has a running back who's been known to have off-the-field issues who has been training in Cabo. Another team is going to be throwing to their running back while also handing off to their running back. And all their wide receiver core is going down. And then one has a glass statue back there. Now, they have a guy protecting that glass statue that is a huge trade commodity right now. And it would be smart not to deal him for anything, not even multiple first-round picks, because that is a guy that you definitely need, more than any receiver, more than any pass rusher. But when you look at the NFC East, I mean, okay, that's cool.
What about the AFC West?
That's understandable. That's more intimidating. You got two teams with bracketing pass rushers in Los Angeles and Denver. You have a team where we don't know what the defense is going to look like, but we know you're going to have to put up 35 just to be in contention with the Chiefs. And then, there's so many moves in Oakland that John Gruden has made. At some point, that team is going to have to start looking decent. At some point, that team is going to have to start looking worth a damn because, wow, that $100 million is fully guaranteed, and that's going to be a high ticket to fire that man. But
I'm glad you brought up Oakland because Chicago plays Oakland in London on October 6th.
With the way Antonio Brown has been, that could either be really, really good or really, really bad.
I hate London games. Pretty much anything overseas. It's so hard to predict anything, and I really like the offense that Oakland's put together, but that Chicago D is going to be something that is going to be tough to play against for sure.
Matter of fact, this is Chicago's first half of the season. Green Bay, at Denver, at Washington, Monday Night Football. Minnesota, Oakland, at London, the Saints, Chargers, at Philly.
Yeah, I think they're what? I hate to say it, but I think they beat my Chargers. But other than that, I think that they potentially lose to the Saints and maybe the Eagles in the first half of the year.
Probably.
Green Bay, I'm just going to give you that first. Green Bay, Chicago, opening night. Minnesota, Denver, Philly, Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I think they lose the first two games, at least.
That's 2 divisional games already.
I know. It puts them behind. I wish I had a good answer for it, but it's going to be tough. But I'm not worried about the Broncos. I think they might be able to scare away the Eagles, and I'm not sure how I feel on the Cowboys, but that's a team that is going to be hit or miss too. I've been thinking about it all day I don't know how their contracts are going to work out with Dak and Cooper and Zeke. I mean, they have the money there, but are they going to pay them all, or is somebody going to move on? If so, I'm kind of want to move away from Cooper on that one.
Yeah, with the way that team is built, and just in general, if there's one position in the NFL where you're going to find a guy, whether he's undrafted or a first-round pick, it's wide receiver. Amari Cooper had a great year for Dallas and really rebounded after being traded. But when you think about the fact that you got to pay a quarterback and you have to pay the running back that is the focal point of your offense, and quite frankly, might be the best running back in the league, considering the fact that he doesn't even like catch balls at the backfield like that.
That's want to be paid like it. And he wants to be paid like the number one running back in the league.
Exactly, which is crazy to think because all this is happening for a contract that's probably going to equal being $52 to $53 million. It's funny because, $53 million is nothing to sniff at, but it's like, dude, wait a minute. Like, Jerry Jones, the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, won 3 Super Bowls with the best running back of all time, who ironically was the rushing champion all 3 seasons they won those. You mean to tell me all this is over a $53 million contract? You just gave DeMarcus Lawrence $100. You're about to give Dak like $150. Because you're going to sign him for 5 or 6 years. At $30 million a year, that contract's going to be absurd on paper when they report it on the ticker. And you mean to tell me all this is happening for $53 million?
That's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it right there. AFC North and the NFC North. Me and Dallas official division picks will be taken care of next week as we get ready for week 1. But before we close out, we got to talk about it. There's no way else to end this. So, Jason, let's talk about Andrew Luck.
Man, well, I totally respect that move. I feel like he's definitely doing what's right for him. That's one that just really hurts that division. I mean, I like Brissett, but I don't think it's not going to be the same for that team for sure, or that division. I think, really puts Houston on top pretty clearly there.
Huh. Oof.
Dallas, that is your division. Your biggest, as a Jaguar fan, one of your biggest problems.
Yeah, I from the outside looking in, I don't blame anybody for thinking that this puts Houston over the top. Actually, being a fan within the division, I'm not going to be overly biased. I'm actually being very fair when I say this. The division's wide open now. They've been having Jacoby Brissett take all the reps with the ones because of the uncertainty. But let's just be honest. They drafted Titus Howard as their first-round pick, a FCS guy. Now, he's so far been great. He's made the ones, but they moved him in the guard. Your first-round pick that you drafted as a tackle, you already moved him inside to guard. Like, if you deal to Jadeveon Clowney, you're either going to try to get Laramie Tunsil or the Eagles' first-round pick, who is already being lauded as a franchise tackle, and why would the Eagles give that up so young? So you're looking for a left tackle, and you're also trying to deal, not your best pass rusher. He's not your best pass rusher, but he's younger than J.J. Watt. So when you're thinking about, you're desperate for a left tackle right now, even though you just drafted a tackle in the first round, but you moved him inside. When you think of the fact that, ironically, the best quarterback in the division just retired because of the long list of injuries and the pain that he's been dealing with, let us not forget that Deshaun Watson had to ride a bus because he couldn't be at altitude because of a lung that collapsed. He's already been dealing with stuff, and now you mean to tell me that you're trying to deal one of your best defensive players on a team that's going to be a defensive team to get a left tackle and some picks because you need to protect Deshaun Watson, and after all this time, you still haven't found that solid blindside protector? The Texans are literally one terrible quarter away from their season being in the tank. The division's wide open. Because I'm not going to say that Nick Foles as a starter has been so great. But when you're focusing on Andrew Luck and the impact of the division, when Andrew Luck was supposed to be coming back for week 1, we all basically knew, okay, everybody else is just playing for the wild card. When Andrew Luck came back last year, he took like a 4-12 team to a play-in game, won the play-in game on the road, skunked the division rival that won the championship game. And yeah, the Kansas City game wasn't that hot. Kansas City was coming off a bye week and all that good stuff, but it let you know what the future was supposed to be. And it let you know that it was supposed to be business as usual when it came to the Indianapolis Colts in the AFC South. So, I mean, it's a huge blow to the division just because, like, damn, like, our ambassador, like, retired because of injury before 30. Like, that was the standard bearer of our division. That was the guy where it's like you didn't completely snicker when somebody said the words AFC and South put together. And for the Colts, man, that's rough because, you know, they're saying all the right things. They're doing all the right things. I think Jacoby Brissett is a solid starter. I think he's going to put up those numbers that you want to see from your starter. But that's rough, man, because with Andrew Luck on the field, that team is built to be a Super Bowl contender. With any other quarterback on that team, I think that's just the way that they should have built it in the first place if they didn't want Andrew Luck to be retiring from injury before 30.
Yeah, and I get that, but, I mean, even with Luck retiring, that team's going to be solid, like you said, but now I'm curious about, well, who do you think the Texans are going to get to replace Lamar Miller? I mean, that's what I'm kind of curious about, who lands there and what kind of moves they make. I mean, I'm assuming that they're going to try and get, I heard, you know, everybody's saying Miami as one of the options, so do you really want Drake as your other back with Duke Johnson? Or I don't want to trust Duke Johnson with a full load like that.
Well, Kenyon Drake would be very good because, let's be honest, Miami's going into uncertainty in their future, too. And Laramie Tunsil has been very quiet because of Miami's lack of success, but that's a huge piece you're giving up for a possible one-year rental. Stephen Ross has already made it clear they're in rebuilding mode. They're not trying to win quick anymore. They're trying to do it slow and steady. And to give up your left tackle for a first-round pick, it's going to have to be a first-round pick, and Jadeveon Clowney, like, nah, especially in the AFC East where a pass rusher alone ain't going to do it against the Patriots. But Kenyon Drake would be a good piece because then you might not have to give up a first. I mean, Kenyon Drake is a receiver out the backfield. Deshaun Watson needs as many receiving options as he can get because when DeAndre Hopkins had that dislocated shoulder, the Texans were basically dead in the water. He needs somebody else to throw to that's reliable and consistent.
It's unfortunate that Andrew Luck had to retire. Question to you guys is, was it fair or foul that the fans booed Andrew Luck when the game was over and they walked off the field?
So foul.
It's so foul. Yeah, I was sickened when I even heard them booing. I could not believe it.
I thought that they would have learned from the Peyton Manning thing. That's just that's so wild that a fan base is so spoiled that they literally did it again. They've had two of the best quarterbacks to ever do it, and they booed Andrew Luck after the franchise like viciously ousted Peyton because of his neck. Before this is the guy they tanked for after ousting Peyton. It's a preseason game. Like, and they booed at a preseason game.
Do you think they booed him because he was retiring or the timing of it?
Either way, it doesn't make it right. Because it's one thing if, like, you know, I'm going out to greener pastures. Like Telvin Smith, for example. Even though Telvin Smith did it super early, he retired because he needed to step away for personal reasons. What does personal reasons mean? That's no reason to boo Telvin, but at the same time, it's like Andrew Luck was a broken man on that stage. Andrew Luck basically showed you that this was a man that had to make a hard decision. Jim Irsay said that Andrew Luck walked away from $500 million. If there was one man and one owner, if there was one quarterback owner combination where money was going to be no issue, it was Jim Irsay and Andrew Luck. Jim Irsay basically said the man walked away from $250 to $500 million. Andrew Luck's from Stanford. He knows that, wow, I get to just, you know, play quarterback in the NFL. I get to have a dream that I've had since a kid. But then I'm going to walk away being one of the most wealthiest men in the country. Like, that's a hard decision. He had to make that decision before 30. We got some guy running around here in New England that's 42, saying he wants to play till he's 45. Andrew Luck had to give all that up because he doesn't want to be one of the guys you hear about in 10 years scrolling across the ticker because he couldn't take it anymore. So it doesn't matter whether it's the timing or not. The reason behind it is the dude, we don't even know what the injury is. We don't even know what's hurting him at this point. His body is that broke down to where he's trying to fix one thing and he hurt another.
Yeah, and I really don't think it is the timing. I mean, because Andrew was nice enough to do that and kind of say, okay, I'm going to retire now. If he would have waited until I think it's the 17th of September. I mean, he would have been guaranteed almost another $100 million. And that just would be a whole nother issue that then I could maybe understand it. But the dude is telling you, okay, my body hurts. I'm done. I'm sorry. And if I could, this was my dream. I would love to keep playing, but I'm not going to play in pain. I'm not going to be able to give you all. And now that he has a kid and on the way and is married, it's doing what's best for him. And I really don't think it is timing. I think it's just they were upset because, well, had he done it sooner, which I understand, he thought he was going to get better, but had he done it sooner, we could have tried to draft a quarterback or could have drafted X, Y, and Z. Granted, I don't think they want to because I didn't really see any great quarterbacks except for Kyler, and they weren't going to trade up for that. And even then, I don't think he's your franchise quarterback like Luck. I mean, Luck was one of those unique finds that was able to take you to the Super Bowl just because he was that talented. He had that high of a IQ, and he was good to go from there. And he was one of the more respectable players for sure. And seeing him go and retire is definitely tough, but definitely one of the better decisions. I mean, Gronk's the same way, right? You retire when you're at the top, and after having what looked like a bionic arm and bionic leg forever for being hurt so often, it's just one of those things that you do what's best for you and not what's always best for your fan base and your team.
I mean, man was dealing with injuries for 4 years. 4 years of rehabbing, pain medication. That's tough to deal with. Not only physically, but mentally as well. It's rough when you're injured and you telling yourself, okay, I'm gonna get better. You get better, something else happens. All right, we're gonna try this again. I'm better, something else happens. It is rough. Like I'm not even mad at him. Like, dude, if your body is that breaking down and it's killing you mentally, yeah, you might just get out. Let's go ahead and do what you got to do, because it's rough playing football. They had a stat, and I was watching First State. His first 3 years, Andrew Luck was sacked 100 times. So you can imagine how many more times he got hit.
Yeah, because Andrew Luck, they actually showed it in a montage on Facebook, ESPN's Facebook page. Like, they actually showed when he's a good sport or when he's still getting hit after the ball is thrown. So sacks are just when he had the ball in his hands, not when he got hit right when the ball left, not when he got hit on late hits, like on runs when it's not a sack anymore. He took a lot of punishment, man.
Andrew Luck, we wish you the best. You come back. If not, we still wish you the best. So with that being said, Jason, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man, it's always a blast to get to talk to you guys. So definitely have a good week and finish it out right.
And Dallas, we have one more college football conference to talk about.
The Pac-12 were already screwed their pooch early in the season. We're basically saying that, if I remember correctly, it's between Washington and Utah and Oregon, and somebody has to go undefeated. And, when we talk about schedules, Oregon probably ain't going undefeated. So, yeah, Pac-12, we saved you for last because, you had a chance to come out with a banger and you came out with a snoozer. Shitter, if you will. So, good for you guys, but we're going to talk about you anyway.
So, we're going to recap what happened in week 0 of college football. Talk about the Pac-12 Dallas Miss and get you ready for literally week 1 of the college football.
Yep.
That should be. We'll see what happens. Until then, we'll catch you later.
Later.